Om Shuklam Varadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyaye Sarva Vighnopashantaye Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murtibheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So I thought that this would be a very uh, useful topic to little bit think about, and which is forgiveness. So forgiveness is a term that we use often. We advise people, oh, you should forgive, you should forgive. Forgive this, forgive that, forgive the person. Or we are advised also, likewise, we should forgive it. Just why don't hold on to this anger. Forgive the person, forgive. So and then we try also, because we want to be mature. When you're young, parents always say, forgive your brother. He's younger than you. He's immature. He's this, he's that. And the more we are told, the more we resent it. The more we resent it. So then I'm paid somebody, forgive. Okay, then even suppose I want to forgive, because that's the thing to do. I'm told that's the right thing to do. That's what makes you grown up. That you're a wise person. So I try to forgive. I try. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. So then I believe I forgive. Then something else happens and the whole thing erupts again. So thus, this forgiveness business doesn't seem to really work. So what is this about now? I should think, what is this about? It's not something. If I honestly look at myself, it doesn't seem to work. Neither it works in anybody else. I notice that too. For all that people talk, nobody really forgives anybody deep down. It's all sitting there somewhere, in some corner. All it is not shown. That's all. So not too long ago, there was a case, in the news. So somebody shot. So this is a common. They shot and killed some young man. So there was this case going on. So finally, this person is convicted of murder. And in that courtroom, this all came in the news. Okay, not a story. So the mother is there, the mother of this young man who was killed. So once the judge, the jury convicts him, and then they announce the judgment. And so the mother makes a statement there, tells this man, they're taking him away, and she tells him, I forgive you, I forgive you. This is not unusual in this country. I've seen this. So she gets up and says, I forgive you. And I'm sure she believed it, or she meant it, because then I'm sure she was perhaps told that you should forgive, you should forgive. So she wanted to forgive. She told him directly to his face, I forgive you. Then I notice also in the news, she comes out of the court. And of course, this newscast is there, all this, the news break fellows, CNN and all. So they ask her, so, so what do you know? Judgment. The conviction was there. Then this was a judgment, I think, they were passing. The sentencing, yeah. So then they asked her, so what did you think of the sentence? And she was very upset. She was very upset because, she felt that it was not fair, the sentence that he was given, that he should have been given a more severe sentence. So then I'm thinking, you just said, I forgive you. You just told the man, I forgave you. And then now you're so upset about the sentence. So I don't understand this forgiveness. So that made me think. Then I just little my research cap I put on. What does it mean when we say to forgive somebody? What does it mean really? What does it mean? You tell me. Any idea? What does it mean to forgive?
Forget and forgive.
So forget and forgiveness alone is a problem. Now I'm supposed to forget also.
We should not forget.
I should not only forgive but also forget.
Otherwise, we cannot forgive.
Some people don't even give you a chance to forgive. They say forget. Forget this happened. They do all the injustice that they want to do to you, do to me, and then they tell me, forget it happened, forget it happened, forget it happened, nothing happened, forget. Then I say, oh, okay. Oh, how do I forget? Here I'm seething inside. And forget the question of forgiveness. You're just asking me to forget, because you don't want to take responsibility. So this forgive and forget business also doesn't work. Forgive doesn't work. Forget doesn't work. How can both work together? So what does it mean to forgive? Does it mean to forget?
Overlook whatever they did.
Does it mean to overlook? Does it mean to overlook what somebody did? Is that the right thing to do?
The only way you can forgive is if you understand, the other person doing whatever.
No,
crime.
the question is not how to forgive. The question is, what does it mean to forgive? What does it mean, really?
Making the man to repent for it.
Can't make the man, or making somebody repent for what they did. Is that forgiveness?
Forgive.
That is called punishment. It's not forgiveness. So then, of course, if you run into these situations, you should always Google, So according to the Google, it says, so forgiveness is a cessation of anger or resentment, okay, as a result of perceived offense to you. So it has two components. One is that a cessation of the anger and resentment. And the second component is, so a cessation of a desire for restitution or punishment. So this is how it works. Okay, there is a here pattern here. So a person A does something to a person B, and the person B feels hurt, unjustly hurt, and angry. And so he wants his hurt and anger to be acknowledged by the other person who caused him the pain and the hurt, or perhaps the loss. And this anger and hurt, so not only that, if there is a loss incurred, a damage incurred, I want some kind of a restitution. Restitution for the damage. Somebody hits your car. What's the very least thing you expect? That the person will compensate you for the repair. Okay. A repair. So you want, that is called restitution. Or sometimes you want the person to be punished. Either you want to be compensated or you want to be, so it's called a punitive. You want a punitive response. Punished for what they did. This is what B expects. Now, the A person, suppose, let us take an example of this to understand. understand the dynamics, that is involved in forgiveness. There is a certain dynamic involved in forgiveness that has to play itself out. The process plays itself out. So I come to your house. You invite me for Bhiksha. Yeah. So Babuji invited me for Bhiksha. I come to the house, and then we are going around, happen walking around and all. So in the process, in the corner, there is a beautiful vase on a table. And so I happen to knock it. Yeah? Looks like an expensive piece. And it falls. And it breaks. Perhaps nobody noticed it. Perhaps nobody noticed it. So then I don't say anything. I don't say anything. I go there and sit down. Okay. Then dinner, everything is over. And I quietly leave and go. Then Babuji noticed that the vase is broken. What happened? Who broke this? How did this happen? So I don't know, nobody. Then one of the other friends, he asks, this, did anybody notice anything? So then somebody says, I didn't notice how it happened. But I noticed that Dhiraji was walking around in that corner. Walking around in that corner. But I don't know, I didn't see anything. So next trip when I come, and then some, bhikshas are being arranged. And then Babuji is asked, would you like him to come home for bhiksha? So he said, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. So maybe this time we'll skip it. So this is one scenario. The other scenario is, and then of course he's hurt. He's hurt, he feels bad, and how could he do this? If did he do this, and if he did it, and why didn't he just tell me? All kinds of things happen. The other scenario is, so this happened, so I go up, and then I tell him, Babuji, I have something to tell you. So I just happened to be in that corner accidentally. I didn't notice this, and I knocked over this vase, and it fell and it broke. And I apologize, I'm sorry about it. And in fact, I noticed a similar vase. So yesterday in the mall, and don't worry, I'll get that for you, before I leave. So then I did that, and he said, no, don't worry about it. I never wanted this in this corner anyway. She just bought it and put it there. I was looking for a way to get rid of it. So you did it for me, and don't worry about it. It's all okay. So everything is over. So next time when I come, I get the bhiksha, So because this is it's all done with, So what happened here? What happened?
First of all, it was acknowledged.
Yeah. So in this, there are things that happen. So there was a event. There was damage that was done to the person unjustly. Nothing to do with this. He finds himself with a expense broken. But then there is an acknowledgement. There is an acknowledgement that I did this. I did this. The next thing is, besides acknowledgement, then there is an apology. There's an apology. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do this. I'm sorry. There's an apology. Please excuse me. Then I will get, there's a damage, there's a loss. So I offer to replace it. Or there is a promise of restitution. Restitution. And so that allows the other person, it removes all the barriers. The other person says, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. In fact, he looks at me, I'm so upset. Then he says, don't worry about it. Really speaking, I didn't even want it. So he shares his secret, shares his secret. And
The
then,
wife got this one.
she did it. So all is forgiven. And we move on in life, correct? We move on. So what happened to the relationship? So the relationship had a crisis. Okay, there was a temporary crisis, and that crisis was overcome, and it reverted back to either status quo, what it was before, or even better.
What about another scenario? Same was broke, and you acknowledge, you apologize, and you offer to find this duplicate. And the person goes on having a tantrum, all that is like alien piece.
Okay, so we will look at, yeah, so we're trying to understand. So this is the simple dynamic of what is called as forgiveness. Okay, if forgiveness means so a cessation of anger and hurt on part of the person, the recipient of the injustice, and a cessation of the desire for restitution and punishment. That's the definition of forgiveness. So what makes that possible is if the person who does the, who's the perpetrator of the injustice, so acknowledges it, apologizes, asks for forgiveness, promises restitution, then the forgiveness is possible. Okay, this is the psychological dynamic of forgiveness. Then it works. It maintains relationships and can even improve relationships. Then sometimes it doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because this whole dynamic gets disrupted. So in this dynamic of forgiveness, what are the important elements? Let us look at that. Let's look at it. In life, we all find ourselves in a position where we need to be forgiven and where we need to forgive. And we always find obstacles to both. So for which we need to understand what these obstacles are. In order to understand, we need to know what are the first important elements that are there in this particular process. So in forgiveness, an important thing, as we saw, the first thing was acknowledgement. How does one acknowledge? What is that acknowledgement? The acknowledgement involves the use of the word pronoun I. I has to be used. I broke the vase. Not the vase was broken. It fell down. Not all these kinds of funny things, I broke it. So that is called acknowledgement. What is the next important thing besides acknowledgement? I acknowledge there's personal accountability. Okay. The next thing is an apology. I'm sorry. So an apology indicates a regret. This is all true. A true apology. I'm sorry that this happened, and that is a regret on my part that this happened to me and this happened to you. So there is a regret indicated by an apology. Then the other important component is asking to be excused. I did something unjust to you, so I need you to free me from my debt that I now owe you. You have to free me. That is empowering the other person. because you were helpless in this. I did something to you, but then I am in your debt now. You need to free me from the debt. Another meaning of forgiveness is when you forgive a debt. If somebody owes you something and you don't want it back, you say, you forgive the loan. Correct? In banking, they use this word. You forgive the loan. So this allows the other person, it is in their hand whether to forgive or not to forgive. That means I've empowered the other person now. And I have put myself under that person's obligation. Okay, look at what all go on. Now it is up to the other person to say, I forgive you or I don't. I'll make you pay for it. And then I have to be ready for that. Then restitution. I'll say, I'll get you another piece to replace this. So it shows a desire. It validates my regret and also shows a desire to compensate for it. That I don't want you to incur the loss because of something I did. So that is restitution. Asking for when I do all these things, and sometimes an explanation. This is what was happening. I was walking around and I didn't notice it, and therefore I hit it and it fell. So a simple explanation, the purpose of which is to show that it was not intentional. It wasn't that something I was holding on to from the last visit that I purposely happened to knock it and drop it. That it was truly accidental. It's just a simple explanation. The purpose of which is not to excuse myself. It wasn't my fault. It is not for the reason of to be excused, but just to show that it was not deliberate. And when these things happen, it's a very easy thing for the person to say, it's okay. Doesn't matter to me. Don't worry about it. Things like that. So I am able to complete the whole process of forgiveness. Unfortunately, this is not how it goes most of the time. This is how it's meant to go. This is the smooth sailing. This also happens a lot of the time. We do things to each other all the time. We hurt each other all the time. And then this is what happens in the dynamic. But then there are a lot of times when we don't do this. There are impediments to an apology. There are impediments to forgiveness, both. So there are ways in which, what makes an apology ineffective? So there are ineffective apologies, So these are what are called as, it's called as a non-apology apology. They call it a non-apology apology. That means, you apologize for, what do they say? For the politically correct apology. Yeah. So it's called a non-apology apology. So which goes like this. It's an apology without any substance. Without any substance. So we'll say, so I do something that hurts you. And it causes damage, you are upset, etc. Not fair, not right. Then I say, I'm sorry you feel hurt. I'm sorry. And then you say, I'm so hurt by you, what you said. I'm sorry you're hurt. No, I'm sorry you're hurt. Is that an apology? It's not an apology. Because it doesn't have the element of personal responsibility or acknowledgement. It's like I had nothing to do with it. You're hurt, it's your problem. Why did you get hurt? You're always, we do something to somebody, then the person gets hurt. And then we say that, well, I'm sorry you're hurt, but then, you always get hurt. You're so sensitive. That's your problem. So where is the apology here? So there is this is type of a, no, I'm sorry you're hurt. Or the other one is, this is political. So I do things that cause a lot of problems, make a lot of mistakes. Then I say, these things happen. Mistakes were made. So this comes a lot you hear on the news item. Mistakes were made. By whom? By whom? By whom is never mentioned. But mistakes it's called generalization. Mistakes were made by the administration. Who are you? No, I'm the head of the administration. No, that is unsaid. So this is what is called as a generalization apology, which has no meaning, which has no meaning. Oh, there's another apology. They call it the if apology.
This is all in Google?
No. No. So, see, you have to always supplement from your head what Google says. Yeah. Because Google says too much. Then it has to be sifted out. You have to discard things. You can take some things. And then you have to put your own thing in it. It's like our cooking, Indian cooking. There's no recipe that gives it. Everything has to be doctored. So this is a doctored Google. You won't find all this. It's coming from my head, some of it. So there is a if apology. If I hurt you, I'm sorry. I'm hurt. I'm bleeding. I'm in pain. And then the fellow tells me, if I hurt you, I'm sorry. What is this if I hurt you? Who else is there around here? You're the one who did, so this is called as a if apology. This is not a real apology. So these kinds of what are called as non-apologies, which don't initiate the process of forgiveness, really. If somebody gives this kind of an apology and accepts forgiveness, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen because there is no processing here. Just as there is this pseudo apologies, there's also pseudo forgiveness. There's pseudo forgiveness also. So in pseudo forgiveness, which is, see, a forgiveness has to be timely and appropriate. Forgiveness cannot be when the time is gone. All the damage is done. Years have passed. Now the fellow is on his deathbed, And suddenly everybody feels guilty about everything, When it's time to go, because you don't know who you're going to account. Here you got away with things. Later on, I have to now be accountable for everything. So then I go there and say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to the whole world for whatever, and then think that everything is going to be so wiped off the slate. So it's something like, say, this is too little, too late. You go to Bhagavan. Bhagavan says, my dear son, too little, too late. Too little, too late. So it has to, well, isn't it better than nothing? No, maybe better than nothing. I'll give you a few punyams, but then, so that is called as a untimely. For it to be meaningful, it has to be timely. It has to be appropriate also. Premature forgiving. Premature forgiving. So Babuji saw the vase falling. Even before it fell and broke, Dhiraji, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So it's like, I forgive. Just don't think about it. That's called premature forgiving. Because I haven't even caused the damage yet. So that means there's no processing here. You didn't give me an opportunity to apologize. before you even forgive me, So that means it loses its whole, the purpose that it is supposed to serve. People do this sometimes, So out of our own anxiety, somebody does something to me. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how they're going to react. I don't know whether I'll be rejected. I don't know. No, so we said, no, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Whatever you do, it's okay, okay, okay. Because otherwise I don't want to create another big event. So we prematurely do it, not in response to a process. That's also not helpful to either party, A or B. Then there is what is called as a insincere pseudo forgiveness, saying it for the sake of saying it. Say nothing bothers me after all. This is only some object. This whole world is mithya. You give a big lecture about how small things. After all, it's only money. Money matter to me. It doesn't. You can buy another. This kind of a false sense of. So it's like things don't. Even though inside it does matter. It's called. There's no real forgiveness, no letting go. But a kind of a pseudo forgiveness. Or there is another thing in terms of forgiveness is the inability to forgive. That's another obstacle. Sometimes in us, we're just not able to let go. We hold on to the anger, we hold on to the hurt, we nurture this negative emotion within us rather than be able to let it go. And they say, when you nurture anger, when you nurture hurt, it's not so much about the hurt, it has more to do with nurturance. It has no to do with nurturance. You want to hold on to something, irrespective of whether it is positive or negative, it doesn't matter. So it's a negative way of holding on to something which you don't need to hold on to. So that is a difficulty in letting go, which we sometimes have. We connect to the person in a negative way. We don't want to let, in carrying a hurt, we carry the person inside our head and suffer from it. So thus, there is this whole dynamic that has to do with forgiveness. So this is, I heard this one time in talking about the pseudo apologies. Very interesting. So this is a person. So I don't know how to say this. So this person, so that did something happen or whatever between two people. So this person is a man of the cloth. Let me use some neutral language. So he's a man of the cloth. So he says, he apologizes. Note, I saw the note. So here I am the sadhu. As a sadhu, I apologize to you. He said, as a sadhu, I apologize to you. I'm looking at this and saying, what kind of an apology is this? What does this mean? As a sadhu, I'm apologizing to you. Because I'm, what it implies, the implication is, I'm the bigger person here. I have to be, it's like saying, I am older to you. I am the more mature one. Therefore, as the older brother, I apologize to you. What does this mean? This is a backhanded apology. It's like saying that, really, shame on you to put me in this position of having to apologize to you. Really, this is what it means, This is called as it's a backhanded. See, we do all these things, without even realizing sometimes what our language conveys, So this is all fine, when it comes. This is all very clear, right? So the whole process of forgiveness is very clear. And for the most part, in this, there is no big problem other than the obstacles. Obstacles, of course, have to be understood and we try to overcome them. But in terms of acknowledgement, apology, forgiveness, it's a simple process. And we do this all the time with each other. Our bigger problem happens so what happens when the person A, who caused all the hurt and the damage, refuses to acknowledge? Suppose I ended my lecture now. Then somebody is the next question I'll get. But what happens if the person doesn't even forget apology? Apology is the second step. First step is to acknowledge. First, either the person doesn't apologize for what they did, or they doesn't acknowledge and apologize for what they did to me, and I feel unjustly treated. Then what happens to this forgiveness? Then how do I forgive? Is the question. Is it possible to forgive? Well, definitely. It is not possible in this way. It's not possible, really. Because there is no processing here. And even if for some reason I'm able to let go, it cannot revert back to status quo. Really, I don't see how it can. It cannot. But in order to be able to, does that mean I need to hold on to the hurt? No. Then how do I let go? Well, I would say, in order to be able to do that, I have to shift my paradigm of thinking. Really. I cannot look for this kind of a dynamic. I cannot look for an acknowledgement. I cannot look for an apology. I cannot look for a process that's going to make it easy for me to forgive and let go. Then what do I look for? I shift my paradigm to something else. And that is where we, in our tradition, so talk about karma. It's a karma. So in karma, so whatever we do, any person does, has a consequence. Has a consequence. Let me explain this one way. Let us say, for example, suppose I tell you that you need not forgive. You need not forgive. Oh, really? I need not forgive? No, you need not forgive. So you mean I can hold on to my anger? Yes. Then I ask you a question. What are you angry about? What do you want now? No, I want restitution. Correct? I want restitution. I want punishment also. Because this person did something, was unjust. So because a person was unjust, why do you want to get back at them? No, because this is justice. I believe in justice. So I am a just person. This person was unjust to me, and I want that to resolve. Okay. You say you are just, right? This person did something wrong. Okay. Has to be punished. It's true. Has to be punished. So now you decide to punish him. I say you have the freedom to punish. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What is it that you want? What is it? What is going to be adequate compensation for what was done by you? In civil law, so then I looked into how do we go about seeking this restitution. What is the opposite of forgiveness? The word for opposite of forgiveness is vengeance.
Yes.
Vengeance is opposite of forgiveness. So you are free to seek vengeance. I give you permission. You seek vengeance now. Okay. Only you have to figure out justly what is the correct vengeance. That's the only requirement. But you are free to seek vengeance. So now we have to see how we go about seeking vengeance in society. So there are different ways in which we do this. So we either vengeance is sought by a law of a monarchy, in certain countries here. So one king decides. So what is the just punishment for what? Based on what side of the bed he got up, you know. Either that, or based on something that some scripture said. So what part of the body you chop off, if somebody does something. It can be drastic like that. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. There was not long ago a case in one of the countries where somebody caused the other person to have an accident, and the person became paralyzed. And then the punishment was that they induced a medical paralysis for this fellow. Or it was either paralysis or amputation, something they did as a punishment. So it's very arbitrary. So the vengeance, I'm saying, so if vengeance is less, or it can be by law. Like in this country, there is a law which determines what is the appropriate punishment. Therefore, when somebody is convicted of a crime, so once they are convicted, have you noticed that the sentencing is never on the same day as the conviction? Sentencing is always after a few weeks. Why is that? Why is that? Why not finish off with the case and go to the next one? You convicted the fellow, you sentence him and be done with him. Why again come back into the court for sentencing after 2 months? Why do we do that?
Everyone thinks in a calm mind.
Yeah, so that the judge can think calmly what happened. Really, why do they do that? Any lawyers here?
I think they give the defendant the opportunity to make a case for mitigating circumstances.
Yeah.
Or
Mitigating circumstances. Because I have to, the judge has to decide. He's already convicted. He did the crime. What is the degree of culpability? That's the word. What's the degree of culpability? To what extent is the person responsible for what they did? They're responsible for what happened. But to what extent? He murdered the fellow. But then was it a premeditated murder? Was it murder in the first degree, the second degree? Was it manslaughter? Was it insanity based? What were the mitigating circumstances? What is his life background? What is this? What is that? So many things go into it. Before you pass a judgment and a sentencing. No, judgment is over, sentence. Now somebody did a wrong to me. Anjali. I believe in justice. This person hurt my feelings very badly and messed up my life. Now in fairness, I want restitution. So, sentencing usually involves restitution. Sometimes it is compensation for what happened. Sometimes it is compensation it's called punitive compensation. Sometimes it's punitive. So, he cheated you by $1,000 and you sue him for $10 million, And you get a judgment for $5 million. Hey, what does $5 million have to do with $1,000 only I lost? Why does he have to pay $5 million? Because this is a big corporation and you have to set an example and they should not do this again. And for all kinds of reasons, they will give a punitive damage to prevent them from again doing the bad thing. And it is considered fair. Okay, so all these are important factors. Now, this person hurt my feelings, caused all these problems to me, doesn't even want to acknowledge. Forget the question of apology. I have a right to seek compensation, damages, but I'm a fair person. Now I have to figure out do you think we can really figure out why people do what they do What is it that prompts them to behave in a certain way? We cannot. In all fairness, we cannot. We cannot know in our relationships and interactions what people do, why they do. We don't never fully understand it. Okay. I don't. But there is a law. There is an order that I believe in. That is the order, is a divine order. That is what we call as the law of karma. It's a law of dharma. Here there is there is really no such thing as forgiveness in dharma and all. It all has to do with what is done and the consequences. It is all which takes into account all mitigating factors and then does what it has to do. The phalam comes. I have faith in that. I trust in that order completely. Only when I recognize that, if I'm able to recognize that, and I also recognize the fact that I cannot justly seek restitution because I cannot account for all the mitigating circumstances or the degree of culpability either. The culpability may be more than what I think. It may be less than what I think, but definitely I don't know what it is. So I leave that decision to whom?
Divinity.
To divinity. So vengeance is mine, said the Lord. They say like that. What does that mean? Does it mean that this Lord is a vengeful guy sitting there? So seeking revenge on everybody? No, that's not what it means. What it means is when the decision, the sentencing, you leave up to me. That's what is meant. I'm the karma phala data. Because if that is the only way, I believe that one can forgive. Forgive somebody who is totally disappears when it comes to acknowledgement of what is done. So it's possible to forgive a person, who does things but then doesn't even care about it, and hurts us in the process. We can let go. Letting go is good for us. It's good for a relationship if there is a relationship, if there is a status quo to be brought back to. If the person cannot acknowledge it, what is the status quo? What is the relationship there? There isn't any, really speaking. So it doesn't go back to anything. But then I don't need to hold on to it. But I have no way of letting go if a person in a relationship doesn't acknowledge it. There is a mechanism, but if that mechanism is denied to me, then I have to shift my paradigm to another mechanism. And that other mechanism allows me, empowers me to let go, to forgive even somebody who doesn't ask for forgiveness. So, because after all, I'm not the one who forgives. You can only forgive a loan if you give somebody a loan, correct? I cannot determine anything about the other person. I do not know how culpable they are, but Bhagavan knows, and whatever has to happen will happen. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. It doesn't mean letting go and everything is okay. Everything is okay. Nothing is okay. Everybody pays the consequence of what is done. Others and me too. But then in that knowledge and in that faith, I'm able to free myself. I'm able to free myself of the hurt and anger and resentment. That is how I understand forgiveness. I think everything else is some kind of a glamorization. This is when I say, oh, I forgive you. And then after 10 years, the volcano erupts because it's all been sitting inside there, somewhere. So I think I can take a break here and we'll do some questions.
Yeah, the saying, the error is human, forgive is divine. Because is that.
It's that, yeah, to forgive is divine,
Yes.
that vengeance is mine. All this, when it says all religions, really, this is another important thing. All religions value forgiveness. We see this. So in our tradition we have forgiveness. Prayer, prayashchittam. It's called prayashchittam. It's asking for forgiveness. So I recognize that as a person, I do so many things. I cause hurt. Then I pray for forgiveness. So we have yani kani cha papani janmantara kritani cha tani tani vinashyanti pradakshina. All this pradakshina namaskaran. This is all kind of prayashchittam prayers. Then other prayers, every night you sing karacharana kritam va kayajam karmajam va. These are all prayers asking for daily prayers for forgiveness. Prayashchittam we do. Pancha Mahayajnas we do every day. Is all prayashchittam for things that are done. There's a Christian tradition, you see. They have this Easter, Easter Lent. It's a day of atonement, forgiveness. So Judaic tradition has it. Yom Kippur, in Yom Kippur, it's a very nice thing they do. So what they do is they will call people. They actually they call their friends, they call people they know. And then they will say, they will articulate it, I'm sorry, I must have done something during this thing, that they ask for, they apologize for whatever they did during the year. It is expressed, Not like us sometimes. Really, I did something to hurt you? Really, you felt hurt? Not that kind of a thing, How is that possible? No. So in Islam, Ramadan is all about atonement. Jain tradition they have a day also in the year when they recite this prayer. Yeah,
They do that, yeah.
it's a day of atonement. We have daily prayers for atonement. It's all there. Everybody, it's a very big value. Yeah.
But
What's your but?
so you look to the divine to forgive. You do the prayers once a year, once a day, whatever. Keep on going hurting. So you can pray for forgiveness with the divinity.
Yeah, so there are two ways of looking at that, So, see, one thing, we're looking at this from the standpoint of the one
That's correct.
who needs to forgive,
Not the
Yeah.
perpetrator.
not the perpetrator.
It applies to
So,
both.
of course, now the perpetrator's standpoint also is different. So, the perpetrator is not like, the whole confession, the whole concept of confession. Then confession involves atonement.
Yes.
You have to do some repentance, sorry, not atonement, repentance, confession, repentance, forgiveness. So that's again, same process. Psychological process is the same, So, but that doesn't mean that, see, when we talk of karma, an atonement doesn't wipe the slate clean,
Yes.
It doesn't. If I do punyam, or if I do a lot of papam, and then I do punyam, does it wipe the slate clean? Is that what is karma? It doesn't. It doesn't. Because if it did, suppose it did, then what we would do, we are all very practical fellows. What I would do is, my initial half of my life, I'll do a lot of punya. lot of good actions, then gather a lot of punyam. Then the fun starts. Then I can do anything I want to do. Then all the papam will be compensated by all the punyam that I did. So I'm back to, I have nothing to lose. That's not how the system works, my. The system works, papam is papam, punyam is punyam. For punyam, I will get good results. For papam, I will pay. Both ways. So there is no cancellation here. The atonement is also like that, I think. That's how I would see it. Go for confession every weekend, and then during the week, prepare for the confession. Because, after all, what's the point in going to confession if I have nothing to confess? Correct? I should have something to confess. Then I am a very, very pious person. But then if I live a clean life, then I have nothing to confess. That means then, poor thing, a priest won't have any job to do. So I have to keep the system going. So the whole week I prepare for confession by doing all that is necessary to be done so that I can go and confess and then atone and keep the money flowing. The money has to keep flowing. But I'm sorry, that's not the logic. I want to make, that's not what I'm advocating. Okay, it's not how it works. Yeah.
But the law of karma, that's intellectually, it's very easy to say all this and say, yes, it's not me forgive, someone else will take care of it. But still the feeling of hurt remains with you. And how do you go with that? I mean, intellectually, yes.
Yeah, so that means, intellectually there are a lot of things we understand. But that has to translate into, that means I know the logic of it.
Right.
But I don't really believe it. If I really believe it, then it will become part of my thinking. So the gap there is between logically understanding something and then making that as a fact of my internalizing it. And then that is the fact of my life that I live by. And that I can turn to. That is called internalization. Otherwise, it's academic.
Right.
That's the difference. So, but it has to be academic first. We have to understand these things. And then think about it, dwell upon it, and see in our life examples the occasions where we get opportunities to test it out, to apply it, to use it. And that is how we internalize it. That is why, that is all a process of growth. But there is a way. Otherwise, it's a tall order. When somebody says you forgive is good for you, is good for you. As if we don't know that. And I try sincerely and nothing happens. Because this person goes about behaving like he never did anything. And then I carry him in my head and spend sleepless nights and he's sleeping well, Okay. So who's the loser here? So for my own sake, for my own well-being, I have to create a certain understanding in me that I can live with, right?
Yeah.
That we can live with. So first it has to make sense. It has to make sense so that I can accept it. I'm not able to accept the fact that you forgive somebody when they did something to you and they don't even want to ready to, anywhere near even acknowledging what happened. To me, it doesn't work. I don't know who it works for, but I haven't seen it work for anybody. But that doesn't mean it doesn't work. The mechanism is different, But when I understand it, then I have an opportunity to see it, to recognize it, to test it out, to internalize it. And then that becomes part of who I am. and it becomes part of my life. And then Kshama Shastram Yasya Kare Durjanaha Kim Karishyasi. So, one who has that capacity to forgive, nobody can hurt that person. So it says, it's like fire falling on wet ground, on wet grass. It doesn't burn it. It itself goes. Something to think about. Anything else?
Sometimes when these relationships happen, because I've heard the term toxic relationship, for example.
Yeah.
And
Did we discuss this point last time? Also, this toxic relationship? I don't remember. Somewhere. Yeah. It's true. There are certain things which is a toxic relationship. So, what is toxic? When something is toxic, poison is toxic. Snake bite is toxic to everybody except whom? Except the snake. Except the snake. That is one thing. And of course, so I have to develop antitoxins. So toxins can only be dealt with either by antitoxins or by antibodies.
Or stay away from it.
Or stay away from it. Protection. So that is what we do. In a relationship that is toxic, an antibody gives me immunity from the toxin. So if the toxin gets into my body knows how to protect it. An antitoxin is a negative, opposite. It neutralizes the toxin. It's an antitoxin. And then, of course, the other thing is you protect yourself. So in a relationship, what do I do? If a relationship is toxic to my well-being, first I develop antibodies so that I don't get into these relationships. If I happen to end up in one, then I develop antitoxin. Learn how to neutralize it, how to deal with it. If that also doesn't work, sometimes I have to just protect myself. Keep away from it. What else to do? What else to do? So they use this term, no? It's a toxic relation. But I tell you, it's not that anybody who doesn't get along with me is a toxic fellow. Not like that.
That's the definition.
No, that's not toxic. That's not toxic. Anyone who doesn't agree with me, this is a toxic relationship. This is like saying I outgrew the person. Most of the times when people get divorced, they say, "What happened? Why did you get divorced?" I outgrew the person. I outgrew. What do you mean by outgrew? No, I grew up and up and up, and this fellow remained down below there. My head reached the clouds. My head is in the clouds. His head is down there on earth. How can we talk to each other? Is that what you mean by growing? Is that what is growth? That you grow till your head reaches in the clouds? I thought we all grew laterally, not vertically. When I grow, I include people. Expansion is inclusion. Growth involves inclusion, not exclusion. I cannot exclude the whole world and sitting on top of the world on a pedestal. And I've outgrown everybody else. I'm part of the world. I'm interdependent on those around me. The more I grow, the more I include people in my uh, whatever that sphere. That is growth. Growth is not vertical when you leave aside everybody else down below you. Growth is horizontal. When I'm able to accommodate people, include people, that is growth. The toxic also gets absorbed. Yeah.
So fundamentally, then, when we recognize the order, we understand the law of karma. Then but understanding it at a deeper level allows us to accept whatever.
Yeah, allows us to surrender to the Lord, to surrender to the order.
So in other words, when we are not able to do that, does that also suggest that maybe we are not accepting Ishvara, we are not accepting the order as it is?
Yeah, that we are recognizing it properly. There is a gap in my understanding, obviously. But I'm also not saying that if somebody hits your car and damages it, you don't go and seek your insurance. I'm not saying that and leave it up to Bhagavan. No, it's not the idea. Then you sue the fellow and collect. That's okay. Let him pay for the repair. I'm talking on a little bit, this more personal level. When things happen to the car when it was parked and you don't know who hit it, the fellow is a hit and run, then what do you do? Then you pay the extra insurance. What else can you do? It's your karma. But don't dwell upon it. Move on. Like that. So it allows us to then move on in our life and not be held back by people who have already moved on.
Without acknowledging.
Yeah, happily moved on fast.
Yeah.
So Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.